faith is not a financial plan. You can't sew your way around bad stewardship. And that's why at some point, you have to sit down and budget. One of the things that can immediately transform God's blessings on your money into what you can touch is a financial plan. Many people don't plan financially, and that leads to very poor money habits. For some of them, they say, I just have faith, everything will work. But listen, faith is very powerful. There's no doubt about that. But faith is not a financial plan. You can't sew your way around bad stewardship. And that's why at some point, you have to sit down and budget. Budget is not unscriptural. Budget is actually a sign of maturity. It's not a sign of doubt. It's a sign of gauging wisdom ahead of deployment. In Luke chapter 14 and in verse 28, Jesus said, which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost? Now that's budgeting. That's financial planning. And if you take note of that verse, Jesus talks about sitting down first. It means that a good budgeting, a successful financial planning must happen before we start spending the money. Many believers today are living in cycles of lack, and it's not because God hasn't blessed them, but because they haven't learned to manage what God has given them. And that could be you. When people complain of lack, when people complain of not having, I say to them, get your bank statement and add together all that has come into your account. You will never believe what has come through your account. So let's talk about 5 quick things about budgeting that every believer needs to embrace. Number 1 is that you need to stop treating budgeting like a bondage. A budget is not a punishment. It doesn't restrict your money. Rather, it directs it. With budgeting, you allocate instead of wondering how you spent your money. Budgeting doesn't mean that you're broke. It actually means that you're wise. I remember some times ago, my wife and I were conversing, and by my training, I'm an accountant. So I'm trained to account for the money of other people. And I said to her, do a list of what you're spending this month and put the money there. Let's see what it is. Eventually, she came to appreciate that, but initially it was a task. Budgeting, planning is not a punishment. The second thing I want you to know is that you can be anointed and still be irresponsible with money. And that's why pastors are not always all-knowing. We're not God. Pastors also don't have specialization in all areas. Sometimes you see a believer who has very poor financial habits go to meet his pastor who also has very poor financial habits. Preaching fire doesn't equal financial order, and you shouldn't confuse spiritual power with money mastery. Both are necessary, but they are not the same. So ask yourself, do I spend with intention or do I spend with emotion? I want you to know that the fact that you are anointed does not mean that you have mastered good money habit, good stewardship of your finances. Number 3, God blesses order, not chaos. Do you remember when Jesus multiplied the loaves and fishes? It didn't start with shouting, it didn't make noise, it started with order. Make the people sit down. And when people sat down, the multiplication process began. Wherever there is order, multiplication is likely to happen there. Ask yourself, why would God multiply what you mismanage? So, before you start asking God for more, ask yourself, have I managed well what I have? Number 4, track, trim, and tell the truth. Now, when we talk about tracking, we mean that you should know exactly where each money went. Trimming means that you should reduce what is unnecessary. Strip yourself of whatever is unnecessary. Trim what's unnecessary. Tell yourself the truth about what you can and you can't afford right now. That you can't afford it right now does not mean that you may not be able to afford it later on. Faith isn't denial. It just means that you know what is and you believe God for more. Faith truly believes in an overflow, but it also honors processes. So when next something tells you to go borrow money to eat or to attend to a luxury, ask yourself, is this the right use of this money, or I'm just trying to live up to other people's expectation? A practical step for tracking is to use an app or a notebook to track your expenses for 30 days. Generally, this exercise shocks people. You will be shocked at what's stealing your peace. You may realize that your money is going where you are not even looking at. This last point is very interesting. Your budget is a prophetic tool. When you make a good budget, you're not just planning, you're prophesying how you want your money to behave. You are allocating money to different funds, and then when you see them, when you know how much you have, you know how much you're expecting, you know the gap, and that gap, you are saying, this is how I'm going to honor God, I'm going to build wealth, I'm going to bless others. It's very easy to say to people when they ask you, oh, do you have some free money there? Without planning, you will say, well, yeah, what are friends for? You give them, not realizing that you don't really have that much. With planning, you can see that everything is fully allocated. You don't even have an excess. So when they ask you, do you have some money in there? You say to them, oh, I'm really sorry, there's no excess. If anything comes up, I'll let you know. But here you are suddenly taking charge of all your money without any pressure. No planning leads to a lot of pressure. Good planning leads to a lot of peace. While faith opens the door for more, wisdom will keep the more. Keep praying, keep believing, but also sit down. Create a plan so that you can manage what God has given you.